You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello everyone, thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Strange by Nature.
Oh, so fun.
Well, I got news for you, Rachel.
What?
Right now, as we are recording this, I am quarantined.
Oh, yeah, I know.
That's
you
right.
did tell me. I'm so sorry, Kirk.
There is a wave of COVID going through my area, and I was unlucky enough to get it. I am almost completely asymptomatic, but I could still spread it to others. My wife, on the other hand, is sick in bed and feeling crappy.
Oh, no.
She was able to get antivirals, and that points to one of the tricky things about COVID. It is a virus, not a bacteria.
Right.
If it was a bacteria, we'd have a much easier time fighting it because we could use antibiotics. And for those who have perhaps wondered why they can't just go to the doctor and get antibiotics to fight COVID, it's because antibiotics only work on bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the day before I realized I had COVID, I was, unfortunately, out at a bar. I didn't get it there, but I certainly may have spread it there. I spent the whole evening playing pinball and seeing friends, and
fun.
I had a tasty beer. Now, I'm not a huge beer drinker. I almost said deer brinker. That makes it sound like I'm having. Now, not a huge beer drinker, but I will have a lager once in a while. And I had to laugh because they had like a dozen beers in cans at this bar, and all of them were lagers, which was my kind of place.
There you go. I'm glad.
Like I said, I'm not a big beer drinker. What I was not thinking about when I drank that beer was how it likely saved my life.
What? Hold on.
Right. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Kirk, hold on. In fact, you just said, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
How did drinking a beer on a Friday night save my life? Well,
yep, I have questions.
It wasn't that beer. It was actually a beer. It's even weirder because it was a beer that I didn't even drink. I couldn't have even drank this beer if I wanted, Rachel, because the beer in question that quite possibly saved my life was a beer back in 1862.
Kirk, I know you're older than me, but I know for a fact you weren't around in 1862.
Right. I said I could not have possibly drank this. 1862, definitely not around. So before we get to that old beer, let's talk a minute about old beer.
Right.
I recently bought a bunch of craft beers, the kind I decidedly don't drink, for a present for someone. And when I did so, I needed to look at the bottom of all these cans to see when they had been canned. There's a lot of beer drinkers who insist that you have to drink a can of beer within 1 month of it being canned or it goes bad.
Huh.
To be clear, though, when they say goes bad, they mean it loses some of its flavor. It's not as good as it could possibly have been. What they don't mean
I'm going to be real
is that it will kill you.
What? Oh,
right?
Okay. Right. I'm going to be honest. I'm also not a beer drinker, so this is very does it really go bad?
This is groundbreaking news for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beers can go bad. But when beers go bad, they don't kill you. However, that wasn't the case back in 1862.
Okay.
A bad beer literally could kill you.
Oh, no.
So could bad milk,
right,
or bad eggs, or juice, or many other types of food and drinks. And the culprit was bacteria.
Okay.
Now, I guess I can't say for sure that I would have died from drinking something that went bad back in the 1800s if I had lived back then.
Right.
But if I did, drink something that had gone bad and it did kill me, it would not have been the only one.
No.
Very hard to get exact numbers from back then. But if we look at milk, for example, bad milk can spread brucellosis and listeria. Those are the most common ones. But what I did not realize and I think we don't really think about, is milk can also spread things like tuberculosis,
Oh.
scarlet fever, typhoid fever,
Whoa.
cowpox, hepatitis,
What?
and other diseases.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
Pretty wild.
Like, I remember
this-
when Victoria, I think it was Victoria who covered milk sickness.
Yeah.
That wasn't,
Mhm.
that was wild.
And that's a totally separate thing. That's from what
Right.
the cows are eating.
Mhm.
But, this whole thing of like cows, having diseases in their milk, that's not something totally from the past either. There's been this trend lately of people buying raw milk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And claiming it's somehow better for you.
No,
And this is basically,
it's not.
in my mind, a modern social plague where you have well-off, healthy people who basically go looking for ways to kill themselves by thinking that they are somehow being extra healthy by ignoring the last 150 years of advances we have made in food safety and medicine. It doesn't work this way, you guys.
Nope.
So I think what's happened is
Yep.
we're now
Oh, no.
so far removed from the diseases of the past that we are openly ignorant of how dangerous the world used to be, even in just our parents' or grandparents' childhoods. And so here's just a little taste of raw milk before we get back to beer.
I don't want a taste of raw milk.
Well, metaphorically. But according to the U.S. Center for Disease Control, between 1998 and 2018, there was an increase in the average number of raw milk-associated disease outbreaks in the United States from the past. Outbreaks during those years sickened 2,645 people, caused 228 hospitalizations, and 3 deaths from what was just a tiny, tiny fraction of the population that were following this weird trend. So now imagine if everyone was doing it. Well, guess what?
God.
Those deaths, Rachel, were preventable
Right.
because of beer. So,
Are
back
you
to beer.
talking about pasteurization?
Well, we're getting there, Rachel. Back in
Okay.
the 1800s, beer was hyper-local. And like milk, it was a highly perishable product. And this caught the attention of a scientist who was interested in microorganisms. He was one of the first to propose that the yeast we use to make beer is actually alive, which you
Ooh.
talked about.
Oh, yeah.
And that the fermentation process may also be allowing something else to flourish. He discovered bacteria were living in beer and causing it to go bad and make people sick, and in some cases, even die.
Whoa.
He also discovered that by heating the beer up to around 170 degrees Fahrenheit, even just for 30 seconds or so, would effectively kill all of the harmful things living in it without really changing the flavor. And this may
Okay.
sound familiar because you brought it up. You know who this was?
Was it Louis Pasteur?
It was indeed.
Yeah.
And the process he invented is now called pasteurization. Yeah. So he's obviously a pretty famous guy for it. He not only invented modern germ theory, he also invented the process we still use to this day to keep our food safe.
Wild.
He undoubtedly has saved millions of people's lives. And I think we tend to think of milk a lot when we talk about things being pasteurized, but it's also important to remember that this all actually started with his interest in beer. He was a beer guy and he was studying beer, which is super cool.
That's so cool.
So here's the thing. Nature is strange in that it keeps trying to kill us and make us sick.
Right.
Although maybe blaming all of nature is a bit much. It's viruses and bacteria keep trying to kill us.
Right.
But not on purpose, because killing your host is a terrible way to spread, right? If you kill your host, you're probably not going to spread. If you make someone so sick they can't get out of bed, they also may not be very good at spreading disease.
Right. Short-lived disease.
So, yeah, ideally a virus or bacteria wants to make us just a tiny bit sick. So subtle that we don't see any reason not to go to work or parties or concerts or pinball barcades. That's why COVID is becoming less deadly over time. I mean, that and the fact that we have vaccines for it. But the strains that kill people and keep them at home are going to naturally burn themselves out. That's why, those that keep you either asymptomatic or almost asymptomatic, but still contagious, actually spread more and more and eventually become the dominant strains. I'm not sure if we're totally there yet, but we're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to point out, though, that there are diseases that, while even if they don't kill you, can still cause lifelong problems. They may keep you alive long enough to spread the disease, and then they shorten your lifespan in other ways, and you may die, younger 20, 30 years later, right?
Which is a worry
So,
that we have with COVID.
Right. So it could also be that they only kill a small percentage of the population, but on a planet of 8 billion people, even a small percentage, like 1%, would still be 80 million deaths. So, I mean, this is a long way of saying, hey, disease is bad, right?
Go get
and
vaccinated.
I think we often forget how, yeah, that too. Vaccines are a whole separate thing for pasteurization, but it kind of comes under this umbrella of, like, I think we often forget how lucky we are to live in a time when we understand these diseases and how they're spread, because people didn't in the past, right? And we have simple
like
things
even
like
100 years
pasteurization.
ago.
Exactly. Or, things like vaccines, like you mentioned, that can save lives.
Oh, yeah.
So if you've got a beer handy at home, probably not if you're driving listening to this, but if you got some milk or juice or wine, also not if you're driving, just raise a glass and salute Louis Pasteur, the man who was interested in strange parts of nature, who figured out how to thwart germs, keep us safe, and allow us to taste beers from around the world without wondering if they're going to kill us.
Oh, thank you, Louis Pasteur.
Absolutely. That's what I got for you this week. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, Rachel, I think you promised a game. Is that correct?
I did promise a game.
All right. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. All right. Like I promised, let's play a game. Kirk,
Okay, I'm in.
Excellent. I'm going to describe an animal, a creature of sorts. And
Okay.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about where it lives, and I want you to guess what kind of creature it is. Okay? If you can figure out maybe its name, that would be fabulous. But at least what kind of creature it is. I feel like name might be too much.
Kind.
Okay?
Do you mean kind like this is a bird, this is a...
Yes.
Or more specific than that you're hoping for? Okay.
Category
Oh,
of animal is fine. If you could try to guess what animal
I
it
wouldn't
is,
be nervous
it'd be awesome.
in general, but the fact that you are doing this as part of the show, I feel like Brett is here. We're playing Eat Ride Jacket or something like that.
I mean,
so,
fair.
I'm a little nervous. All right.
You should be.
Start Game Master. You at home can play along.
All right. So the creature that I'm talking about this week has 4 legs, and it's the largest species of its kind. It comes in at about 2.2 pounds, so 1 kilogram. So it's the largest.
Oh gosh. Okay. So
species
I'm having.
of its
I was
kind.
picturing an elephant that just shrunk much smaller. Okay.
Right. And it is about 8.7 inches in length. Okay.
Oh gosh, that's long for a 2-pound animal. Okay.
It lives on several islands in the Caribbean, in particular in the Lesser Antilles. It actually went from several islands to just 2.
This is the largest of its species?
Yes.
Largest of its kind?
Yes.
Okay.
It used to be something that people widely ate, but unfortunately, it is critically endangered for a variety of factors, one being habitat loss and overhunting, but it's also being critically affected by a fungal disease. It's a common figure in folk songs, in poems, and even jokes. It's actually also been featured on Dominica's coat of arms.
Interesting.
Any ideas so far? What's your thought process so far?
Is that all you're going to give me?
Oh, no, I have more.
Okay, when I first started off, did you say it was 4-legged?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you said it was, the biggest. I'm thinking like elephant, and you're like, oh no, 2 pounds. I'm like, all right, that narrows it down to something much smaller. I was thinking like something like a weasel or some sort of, smaller thing. But I'm like 2 pounds. It could be probably smaller than that. And the biggest weasels are much bigger than that. So it takes kind of all the those out. Then I started going down the route of like iguana or some sort of like reptile. But I think there's some huge, huge members of that family, right? So like 2 pounds, I feel like that sort of rules a lot of those out, unless it's a specific subtype of reptile. You want to be more specific.
Okay.
People eating them, interestingly, doesn't really rule out much of anything because people eat everything, Rachel.
I know.
So that is kind of a red herring there. And being on a flag, I don't recognize stuff, but I'm trying to think, for a while I was thinking bat, some kind of bat.
Okay.
But I'm like, there are various like 2 pound bats, but like there are much bigger bats. There's like flying foxes, which are
which arguably
enormous,
are not bats. All right. Would you like more information?
I would like more information.
All right. Their alarm call sounds like a chicken squawking.
Okay.
Like, sorry to our listeners.
Okay. Doesn't help.
Nope. This animal is omnivore, mostly favoring other animals, eating anything that it can swallow. It eats everything from crickets to millipedes to tarantulas, geckos, frogs, even small rodents. So whatever it can swallow.
Okay. So it sounds like maybe it rules out it being a rodent itself.
When parenting,
but maybe not.
The male and female will create a bubble nest, nesting burrow to mate in. And the female,
bubble nest?
Yeah. And the female will lay eggs. Both the male and the female will stay close to defend their babies once they've hatched.
Is this some kind of fish? Like,
fascinating. The female will also The female will also produce unfertilized eggs for her babies to eat.
Well, it can't be a salamander because there are giant salamanders that are way more than 2 pounds.
We've talked about them on the show. This creature lives about 12 years. It's got brown skin and has black spots or stripes. That's all the knowledge that I'm going to give you, Kirk.
Okay.
Any ideas?
I'm almost leaning toward like some kind of frog or amphibian.
Okay. Why?
Well, the bubble nest and, the laying lots of eggs, and just eating stuff. Although I don't know that 2 pounds. I mean, like is a bullfrog more than 2 pounds? They can be pretty big.
They can be, but they're not 2 pounds.
Okay. Well, my best guess is that you are describing some sort of frog.
All right.
Or a toad.
Well, congratulations, Kirk. It is a frog.
Nice.
Yeah. So this week, I wanted, woohoo! Congratulations! You made it.
Congratulations to you at home if you got that. Yeah, of course, people eat frogs.
Right. They were pretty well eaten, I guess. So
if you like to eat frogs, I can highly recommend you listen to episode a few back about called "Maybe Don't Eat the Snails."
Yeah. I wouldn't eat the frogs either.
If you want some rat lungworm, go ahead and eat the frog legs. Go on, Rachel.
No, I won't. Oh, that's awful. Okay. So this particular frog, this particular species of frog is commonly known, and you've talked about your hatred of these things, or not hatred, but like why of this. Their common name is mountain chicken.
Oh. Yeah, just stupid names for things.
It's also called the giant ditch frog. So it does have other names, but I do love that this
I'm not
frog...
sure that's any better.
No.
Giant ditch frog.
Right?
Oh, man.
It's not
that's
better.
So insulting.
I really like the name mountain chicken. I think that's very funny. That a frog...
It is better than ditch frog. I'll give you that.
The largest frog, one of the largest frogs in the world, is called a mountain chicken. Like, it's not a chicken.
If they call it,
they don't live in the mountains.
We'll call it a mountain ditch chicken.
Beautiful.
The giant mountain ditch chicken.
And, the reasoning why it's called a mountain chicken actually goes back to, like, there's some debate on whether or not it has to do with the fact that people used to eat it all the time and the fact that it's, like I said, its alarm call sounds a lot like a chicken. So because of that, wild. But this is a very large frog.
Yeah.
It's wild. So generally speaking, it lives on islands. It's critically endangered currently. The fungal disease that I mentioned earlier is called the Tridiomycosis. Tridiomycosis. This is what I get for attempting Latin when Victoria isn't here.
And what is that?
That is a fungal disease. It's actually affecting a lot of amphibians. That is the fungal disease. And it's causing a lot of issues with amphibians, actually. It's contributed to a lot of dramatic declines in populations, especially in North America, it sucks. I'm going to be flat out and say that. It sucks. Because it's a fungal disease, so it's able to attach more into amphibians because they have lower body temperatures than like mammals, for example.
Gotcha. Yep.
But we've talked a little bit about fungal diseases on the podcast before.
And the relationship to body temperature, just everything's all coming together here. Exactly.
And the other part of it too is this is a pretty recent disease. Like it's only been found, it started being found in 1993, not only in North America, like I said, but it's a global issue for amphibian populations.
Right.
It's been found all across the globe, but it was first found in Australia and has since spread everywhere, which not great. Yeah.
I won't hold our wonderful, beautiful Australian listeners responsible for that.
No, because we don't, like, that was one of the places
if they don't hold me responsible
but...
for all the rabbits and
right
stuff that has shown up in Australia.
Right.
So I had nothing to do with that.
Exactly. So like the mountain chicken, going back to that, generally speaking, it looks just like any frog. So picture a frog in your head. That's kind of what it looks like. It's just huge.
Yeah. I looked at a photo and I'm like, oh, there's no sense of the size in
there
these
is
photos.
Not a single sense of the size.
To me, it looks a little bit like a wood frog. If you know what that looks like.
It reminded me of that as well.
Kind of, and yeah.
Yeah, and what's crazy is they don't really live on mountains either. I don't know why exactly they're called mountain chickens. Apparently, because this is how people react. Apparently, it also tastes like chicken, which probably contributes to its name in the first place.
Right. I wonder if historically their range was different. Has changed over time. I mean, there may have been different subspecies that were wiped out in higher elevations or something.
I mean, maybe. For the most part, it seems to be the historic range was the Lesser Antillean Islands, which is in the Caribbean Ocean, or Caribbean Sea, I should say. It's just north of South America in that kind of area. It used to be in multiple islands, but now it's only been found, and now it only is on Dominica and Montserrat, which sad. But it's super cool though, because not only are they like this terrestrial species of frog, but I mentioned a little bit earlier about their bubble nests that they make. So these frogs, what they'll do, it's wild. It's really unusual for species to do this. So what they'll do, they don't, how do I describe this? Most amphibians will breed in the water because their eggs will hatch into tadpoles and those need to be in water to be able to breathe, right?
Right, yeah.
This species of frog actually makes a little burrow that can be up to 20 inches deep. And this is towards the end of the dry season. it's towards the end of the dry season, right before the wet season. Okay. So that way there will be some rains and everything. But what will happen is the male frogs find good like nesting sites, dig this nesting burrow, and then they'll attract a female. Once they have a female, they will engage in amplexus, which is, I don't know if we've talked about amplexus here.
I don't think we have, no.
Which is wild. Amplexus is pretty much like paralyzation almost of the frog. Like they're stuck together for however long, and amplexus, like their muscles freeze in that position and they can't move anymore until they are done mating. Wild. We'll have to talk about amplexus. I'm sure we will at some point or another.
Put it on the list.
Oh, I know.
We've talked about other ways animals get stuck during mating, but not that one.
Yeah. So the female, once they're in amplexus, the female starts to secrete like a fluid, and then the male makes that fluid into a foam with his like hind legs.
Becomes like a nightclub like foam nest. Dance party kind of thing going on.
Yeah, but they're building this nest, and it takes them 9 to 14 hours to build this nest, Kirk.
Oh, it's a lot of bubbles.
Yeah, there's just so many bubbles. Yeah, so much foam. And then the male will leave the burrow and defend it from intruders while the female will lay the eggs. And she can lay up to, oh my gosh, once they're hatched, she will lay more eggs. So once the tadpoles have hatched, she'll lay more eggs because the tadpoles will be in that as the food, like I said. And there are up to 25,000 eggs that she'll lay for the tadpoles to eat. And they will, and the foam is where the tadpoles are. That's what's keeping them moist and everything. So they're not in water. They're in the foam.
That's amazing, because this is not like an overnight process. I mean,
no. Like
how long are they in the foam?
45 days.
Well, how do you...
The female continuously renews the foam as time is going on.
Okay.
So like
I thought
she
like
only
this
leaves
was some magic foam that lasted forever, and I'm like,
no, like they're renewing.
This. You could make amazing.
You could
like there could be some amazing application. I can't. I'm working with kids, and we're trying to get bubbles.
Right.
Sometimes they're not lasting long at all.
Right.
But if they got foam lasting that long, holy cow.
Not quite that long, but they are continuously renewing the foam, and she only leaves in order to like eat. But the male will be around to guard the female in the nest as well. But it's still 45 days just for anywhere from 26 to 43 little froglets to emerge. It's
holy cow.
Wild. And
that's mind-blowing.
Isn't it? And then because it takes 45 days, by the time they get to the end of the time, like they emerge as little froglets, it becomes wet. It's wet season now. So it's much wetter and easier for the little frogs to get more food, because there's a lot more food when it's wet. Sure. Like there's just more food and things around. It's wild.
That's so cool.
Isn't it so cool?
It's cool enough if it wasn't for the fact that they're also like the largest frog in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Also very cool, and there is wild. I did find, scrolling through a photo of one with something to compare, a person holding onto one. And it's massive. Like it's covering their whole hand, and the legs are dangling down like 8 inches under the person's hand. It's huge.
It's giant. And the thing is, when I said that it was like 8.7 inches in length, not meters, that's from its nose to its vent. So that doesn't even include like their legs.
Right.
So,
wow.
Pretty big. It's wild. That's what I have for you today. That was that.
Yeah, what a cool animal.
Right? That was just what I wanted to talk about. I saw a mountain chicken. Someone told me about it, and I was like, what is a mountain chicken? They didn't even tell me. They're like, hey, look up mountain chicken. And I looked it up and like, why is it showing me a frog? And then I learned more about it.
Talk about that.
Gotta talk about it. My sources this week, just so that way we have those. So if anybody is curious, was an article in the National History Museum, which was in the UK, hilariously, by Emily Osterloff. Wikipedia helped out a bit.
Love the Natural History Museum.
Right? Love them. I also used the London Zoo. Andrew Cunningham had a really great article about the mountain chicken. And then the St. Louis Zoo also had a great article about mountain chickens. Wild sentence to have to say.
That's what we do.
Oh, yeah. All right. So that's all I have for you this week. I think that's it, Kirk.
That's it. Wow. All right,
Yeah.
we'll be back next week with Victoria
Woohoo!
with more Strange Nature.
And it's
See you then.
second week of the new year. We've done it.
Yep.
We've conquered.
We got more to go.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.
Hey there, podcast listeners. Are you looking for a fresh podcast that dives into the realms of scientific wonders, shares unique career advice, and where you can learn about the stories of guests who made real scientific discoveries possible?
Then join us at Keep It Science as we aim to unravel mysteries, spark inspiration, and much more. We're all about bringing science closer to you.
We are your co-hosts, Dr. Elizabeth Kugler and
Dr. Ned Gaunt. So keep questioning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep it science. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and X, or wherever you're listening to this from.
bye!